Well, good evening, Minister, Principal, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Glasgow University, to this wonderful place of Victoriana and digital technology. Tonight, we will launch CREATE, our Center for the Creative Economy, and I'm delighted to be your guide for tonight's proceedings. I'm Martin Kretschmer, I'm the director of CREATE, and it is an important and exciting night for all of us. Only 20 years ago, copyright law did not touch most of our lives. Reading, listening, or searching was well beyond the reach of law. Today, searching, reading, and listening takes place in a digital world, and copying is involved at every stage. If you briefly pause to reflect on your day-to-day, what you did on the internet, on your laptop, on your smartphone, it is very likely that you infringed copyright, barely blinking with your eyes. So how is creative production going to take place in this brave new world of digital natives? To begin our journey of discovery, and I would like to introduce Jo Swinson. Jo Swinson is a minister in the Department of Business, Innovation and Skills.
Thank you very much, Martin. And I am delighted to be here this evening at the launch of the CREATE Research Centre and to see so many of the leading academics and intellectual property experts here to this event. And as a proud Glaswegian, I'm also delighted to welcome so many people from across the country and beyond to this fabulous city. And I think what a fitting venue it is for this groundbreaking initiative. In a city where we stand with a university with huge history, where if you look back to the role that Glasgow played in the Industrial Revolution, at its culture, at its creativity, at its heritage, and indeed at its dynamism for what is yet to take place. And I know that from the historic buildings today, those of you involved in the conference tomorrow will be going to a much more modern and futuristic building of the Lighthouse. So it's really genuinely very great to see you all here, and I hope that you will find Glasgow a warm and welcoming place today. As you know, the government in these difficult economic times is committed to an ambitious growth strategy. And whether that's making sure we have the most competitive tax regime in the G20, whether that's encouraging investment and exports as a route to a more balanced economy, or creating an educated and skilled workforce that's the most flexible in Europe. The Department for Business, Innovation and Skills is the powerhouse underpinning that growth strategy, and that of course includes the vitally important work of funding the outstanding UK research base. And we are committed to securing that research base, and in the last spending review we demonstrated that by protecting the budget with a flat cash ring-fence settlement. And indeed, recently the Chancellor announced a £600 million injection into the scientific research infrastructure in the UK. That money is going to be directed at 8 strands of research outlined and identified by David Willits in his speech last week to Policy Exchange, including big data, synthetic biology, and energy storage. And that, in total, brings capital spending on science since 2010 to more than £1.5 billion. It will support high-tech areas where the UK's research base and industry can gain a real competitive advantage. That will drive growth, create jobs of the future, and help us get ahead in the global competition. Now, protecting funding for this research base has been possible because we know that it's vital for the future of our nation in a global knowledge economy. And of course, making sure there's certainty about the funding has many positive benefits, including helping to attract the highly skilled professionals scientists and technicians that we need, enabling the UK to be a focus for international investment and improving public policy and services, much of which the Create Institute will, of course, contribute to. And this applies to both types of research, both the fundamental curiosity-driven research and the research that is specifically related to the immediate challenges facing business and public services. And we are very serious about supporting that blue skies research. And I would also, standing here today, it's great to be on a panel that's not too bad in terms of diversity, but I think it is important to say that if we do not use all of the talents within our society, then we really miss out if we do not draw scientists and engineers from as wide a talent pool as possible. And so that's why we have a range of measures in place to ensure that the science, technology, engineering and mathematics workforce is diverse, reflecting wider society and making proper use of all the talents out there. Now, of course, Scotland benefits from being part of the vibrant UK research base, which is, of course, the second highest ranked in the world after the US. And we have major benefits of this UK-wide research, and this particular project with the research councils coming together is an excellent illustration of that. Now, if we look ahead to future growth, we are going to be increasingly reliant on the economic outputs of businesses with intangible assets, such as intellectual property. And that's why it's vital that we get that regime right. And that's not just for the sake of existing rights holders, but also for new and innovative businesses, some of which we're going to hear about later on, and for consumers. Our ability to sell goods and services around the world is critically dependent on intellectual property, and our future competition depends on it. That's why, back in 2010, the Prime Minister commissioned Professor Ian Hargreaves, who is here this evening and you will be hearing from further tomorrow, to look at how the IP system could do more to help the UK economy grow. His review and the UK's subsequent policy programme are about reforming our intellectual property system to stimulate both technology and content creation. And in particular, the changes announced by the Secretary of State Vince Cable at the end of last year are about ensuring that our IP system is able to cope with the challenges of the digital age. The UK benefits from strong and vibrant cultural and creative industry sectors, world-class expertise in publishing, TV formats and broadcasting, film and music production and recording, visual effects and video games, indeed particularly important here in Scotland. And we have a first-rate public infrastructure of museums, galleries, libraries, orchestras and theatres. We punch well above our weight internationally, and this needs to be sustained as the global digital economy expands. We cannot be complacent, because this sector faces challenges like many others. And that is exactly where Create fits in. With the growth of digitisation and online innovative business models, the UK's creative economy faces enormous challenges, including increased global competition and rapid change. And to fully understand that dynamic, changing world and how we can actually support that economy through government, it is important that we understand exactly what those challenges are. And the programme being developed by Create will help us to build that evidence base. So I applaud the research councils for this timely initiative to establish and put together this unique centre. It's a true partnership project, benefiting from collaboration with the Intellectual Property Office, Nesta, and the Technology Strategy Board. But to make Create work and be sustainable, it will be important to build support. There's many different parties who have an important role to play. Academia, government, industry, and the user community all have very different views, but importantly, the same objective: a successful and growing UK creative economy. And to meet that objective, all those parties need to come to the table to share information and data, to participate, to cooperate. Create has an opportunity to build those bridges, creating new partnerships for the benefit of UK creativity. That is the challenge that I'm confident Create will rise to. And so I really would just like to say a huge good luck to the whole consortium. I hope you have an interesting and constructive debate tonight and indeed tomorrow. Thank you for inviting me here to your launch tonight, and I will certainly be following the exciting results which I'm sure will be coming out of Create in the years to come. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. Our next speaker is Mike Russell. He's Cabinet Secretary for Education in the Scottish Government.
Thank you very much, and my apologies, Joe, for coming in halfway through your speech. It's always difficult to get from Edinburgh to Glasgow this time of night. I blame the government. I'm just not sure which government I should blame, but no doubt I'll find one. It is a great pleasure, as always, to be in Glasgow University. Professor Anderson was saying to me that I'm here so often I will get my own parking permit, but knowing how rare those are in this university, I think I may have to do a bit more to get it. But I'm a frequent visitor to this, of course, and to many of the other fine universities in Scotland. Indeed, I am en route from Edinburgh to Aberdeen for a series of meetings, which will include meetings in Aberdeen University tomorrow. And next week, I'll be in this university for the relaunch, the renaming of the Adam Smith Business School, and to talk about the influence of the Enlightenment. One of the hallmarks of the work that we try and do in Scotland in higher education is collaboration. The work that is done through the research pools is of enormous importance to us, and it allows us to punch well above our weight. And Scottish higher education does punch well above its weight. I think if you wanted evidence of that, you would only have to look at the research citations and at the rankings of Scottish universities. We still have 5 of the world's top 200 universities in a small country of 5 million people. It is certainly my job as Cabinet Secretary for Education and Lifelong Learning to make sure that that continues to be the case and to support the excellence that we have in our universities. So it's particularly pleasing to know that in Create, 4 out of the 7 universities involved are Scottish universities, the universities of Glasgow, Edinburgh, St Andrews and Strathclyde. It is that strong research base that we bring to the table, just as it is that strong research base that we bring to the UK research councils. They recognise, I know, the excellence of this sector, the HE sector in Scotland, and they base their collaboration and their funding upon that research excellence. And of course, as we now move forward into the referendum campaign, we need to engage strongly and creatively in the issue of how we continue to collaborate on a Scottish, on a UK, on a European and on a global basis. And that is a discussion that we will be having with a range of people, and indeed have already started. And this university and the other Scottish universities need to be part of that debate and discussion, because they will continue to collaborate and to work based on the excellence of what they do. There is no sentiment and there is no favoured treatment for Scottish universities. They have reached the position they have in UK research funding because of what they contribute, not simply because of where they are. And in those circumstances, we want to continue to build and develop those dialogues, and I look forward to doing so. It's a particular pleasure for me to welcome this project to Glasgow. I came from the creative industries, and I still have, as Philip Schlesinger knows, an interest in those creative industries. Indeed, I had a wonderful brief 9 months as Culture Minister. It was far too short, but it did recognise my interest in this sector and the work I've done in this sector, and the work perhaps that I will go back to do in this sector, though not too soon. The work I've done in film and television, the work I've done as a writer and author and commentator makes me, I think, gives me first-hand experience of how important this particular collaboration and work is. And I'm very keen to see it grow and develop within Scotland. The contribution of creative industries to the Scottish economy is enormous, £2.5 billion. It provides 64,000 jobs. That is, of course, crucial. But it also is part of who we are. It expresses who we are, a creative, communicative country, a country that wants to play in the world and wants to make sure that it is part of that world community of creativity. So what is being done here will contribute very greatly to it, and I hope, having taken part in the formal launch of it, that I'll be able to come back and see and talk to those who are working on the variety of projects in this university and others, and to contribute in that way. We've just had the Year of Creative Scotland. We have years of Creative Scotland every year, but we had a special year of Creative Scotland, which was highly successful, and we're now in the year of Natural Scotland. But the Year of Creative Scotland allowed us to do many of the things that we wanted to do and to focus on many of the creative communities and individuals in Scotland, and we'll go on doing so. And I know my colleague Fiona Hislop will bring that support and that enthusiasm to the table. This project further reinforces, in my view, three key things about Scotland. One is the creativity of Scotland. The second is the way in which education is built into our DNA and the research excellence we have. And the third is our thirst to collaborate and to work with others on every single level. So it gives me great pleasure to welcome here Martin Kretschmer, the project director, who has the background, the themes of the project, to welcome and I hope to talk to briefly those who are in the project teams, including the Scottish University representatives, and hopefully to see what you're doing in more detail on a future occasion. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for being partners in this with so many good universities north and south of the border. Thanks.
Thank you. Well, our next speaker is my own principal, Anton Muscatelli.
Well, thank you very much, Martin, and Cabinet Secretary, Minister, ladies and gentlemen. I'm also delighted to be here. I'm delighted to have the opportunity to just say a few words on behalf of the university on this special occasion. And perhaps it goes without saying that the University of Glasgow is absolutely delighted to be the headquarters, the hub at the centre of this exciting new venture. It's an honour and privilege for us to have the responsibility for leading such an innovative, groundbreaking project that has the opportunity to shape and indeed stimulate the creative economy in Scotland and the UK, now and in the future. We're particularly pleased to be engaged with CREATE because I think it encapsulates and lends dynamic expression to our vision as a university in the 21st century, as mapped out in our strategy, Glasgow 2020, a global vision. Our strategy as a university is firmly rooted in and driven by our conviction that the creative value and the strength of building multidisciplinary collaborative research. Over the last few years with Glasgow 2020, we've been working very hard to break down the traditional boundaries that can lead to academic silos in order to energize new and innovative thinking across our university through creative interplay and dialogue. We've seen the success of that in our sciences and our biosciences. It's terrific to see the same happening in our arts, law, and social sciences. And I think CREATE is a further and exciting example of this. CREATE has built itself on the foundations of interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary research across some 8 subject areas. It will be located in our law school based in social sciences, but it will draw across the UK on subject areas and disciplines such as law, economics, management, computer science, sociology, psychology, ethnography, and critical studies, spread across, as I say, the UK. It will include well-established initiatives such as Horizon and EPSRC Digital Economy Hub and key technology partner based at Nottingham. It will also interact and work in partnership with other centres such as Glasgow University's Centre for Cultural Policy Research based in our College of Arts. Now, taken together, that's a very rich and nurturing soil. The prospects for growth, I think, couldn't be better. And as I've alluded to, and as you've already heard, CREATE has also embraced the enriching value, not just of multidisciplinarity, but of collaboration across the whole higher education sector in Scotland and in the UK. 7 universities involved, including the University of East Anglia, Goldsmiths, Strathclyde, St Andrews, Edinburgh, and of course Nottingham, whom I've already mentioned. It's a very impressive list of partners. I'm sure you'll agree, and it's wonderful for us to be at the heart of this outstanding UK-wide consortium. CREATE, therefore, I think embodies where we want to be as a university. So let me therefore stress just how committed we are to CREATE's success and so to welcoming and working with the members of the consortium here tonight as we take this joint enterprise forward together. But CREATE is also special to us because of the place and prominence that we as a university give to culture and the creative arts. We decided to have the launch here for a reason. We are keepers and custodians of the world-class Hunterian Museum and art galleries. It's Scotland's oldest public museum. We have practical as well as intellectual interests, concerns and aspirations for the ways in which we can use these fantastic assets now and in the future to make them live, breathe and inspire successive generations. and make them become much closer to those who use these collections as well as those who research them. We already work closely with the City and Glasgow Life in this enterprise. We are at the very centre of the plans to develop a cultural hub in the West End of Glasgow, more of that in future. So the thinking around how the creative and cultural industries can thrive and become innovation leaders within the global digital economy isn't just a matter of theory and blue sky to us. It's a real and practical application right on our very solid stone doorstep. And finally, just let me share one more reason why I think we should celebrate the launch of CREATE. Yes, as a university, we do value multidisciplinary collaborative research, but not just because of its own intrinsic worth, but for what that application might bring to our communities, our economies, our enrichment, and our well-being. There's much thought and talk about research and impact these days, and there's absolutely no doubt that CREATE, through its fundamental academic character, has ambition to weld the two together. Its vision is clear. It sees the enormous potential to make a contribution to policy and the policy agenda, thus affecting and contributing to the creative industry and economy in real and practical ways. So therefore, on behalf of the University of Glasgow, can I celebrate with you the launch of CREATE today? Its nature, its focus, its ambition makes it a perfect fit. I believe it's found its intellectual, its practical and perfect home here in Glasgow. So let me personally thank the Scottish and UK governments for their support, the HRC, EPSRC, ESRC for their vision and trust, and for the input interest in shaping hands of the Intellectual Property Office, NESTA, and the Technology Strategy Board. Without you, without your input, we would not be here today and on the threshold of something incredibly significant. Thank you.
And now it's the turn of Rick Rylance, who is the Chief Executive of the Arts and Humanities Research Council and our lead funder.
Yeah, I'm the money. There are lots of reasons for enjoying being here. One is being in this truly fabulous building. I don't think I've ever been here before, and it's an astonishing thing. I am a Victorianist by research background, and to see this wonderful, exquisite, decorative work done in very modern materials, it's all cast iron, this, really is emblematic, I think, of the creativity which is here in Glasgow, which runs through British culture from top to bottom, and which is aspirational for the CREATE Centre. So that's one great reason to be here. Second is, it's always nice to be on a panel with ministers, because they say nice things about you. And so, Joe, thank you very much for that. That's great. UK research really is genuinely world-leading on any measure whatsoever you can think of, and we are particularly distinguished in the creative industries, and it'd be good to see the CREATE Centre itself as a natural continuity of that. The third reason I'll put before you for the pleasure of being here is that although this is a beginning for the actual CREATE Centre, it's the end of a very long process for us, because we've been working on this for several years with umpteen different people. We've looked internationally about the opportunities, and one result of all that work has been that this genuinely is a pioneering and at the moment unique establishment in CREATE. There's a real opportunity here for us to embellish that world-leading aspect of our work and pave new ground. There's a pioneering sense of this. There's a sense of opportunity. We've got an industry, the creative industries, which is racking in about 102 billion annually now, about the same size as Big Pharma, interestingly. But it's one which is mobilized by and challenged by new technological opportunities, and the way the digital revolution is going to alter copyright, the way it's going to alter regulation, the way it's going to alter business experiences. That's what CREATE is about. So for us, it's a long journey, but we've arrived at an excellent place, both physically and metaphorically. And I'd like to thank Glasgow for putting in this fantastic bid, all their partners for contributing to it, and also my partners at the HRC in the Research Council, the IPO, the TSB, and NESTA, who are also formative in its development. And that, it seems to me, is the spirit of the times. It's trying to work together, as so many of my colleagues up here have said today. And so, Create, I wish you well.
Well, many graceful words, no high expectations. I thought we couldn't leave you without giving you a taster of what we are all about. Creative industries are not something abstract, it's people making them happen. And we are delighted to have Frances Pinter here tonight, who is a very rare creature. She's a serial social entrepreneur and publisher with an academic spirit. Frances set up Pinter Publishing when she was only 23 and developed it into a world-leading academic publisher. And she also pioneered several other ventures, including Bloomsbury Academic, where approaches combining print on demand and free non-commercial use were shown to be able to be profitable. Frances' latest project is called Knowledge Unlatched, which is an international consortium of libraries which attempts to secure collective payments to bring titles to first digital publication under open access licenses. Create is about new perspectives, and there's no one better than Frances, a true citizen of the world, to tell us what digital means.
Thank you very much, Martin. It's a real privilege and an honor to be here at the opening of this very important research center. We're all here looking at the future, but I want to start with a story. It's a very old story. Over 2,000 years ago, a Roman philosopher by the name of Lucretius wrote an epic poem. It was called On the Nature of Things. It vanished from history completely until about 600 years ago, when the Italian book hunter Poggio Bracciolini found a dusty edition in some hidden German monastery, and he recognized its value at once. He had it transcribed and circulated amongst his humanist friends. Now, recently, Stephen Greenblatt wrote a book about Bracciolini, his discovery, and how the ideas in that poem fueled the Renaissance. The book is called The Swerve, and it's great. It reads like a detective novel, and last year it won the Pulitzer Prize. But I'm telling you this because the questions around how ideas are shared and generate value goes to the very heart of Create's mission. Lucretius's role in shaping the Renaissance tells us a great deal about the curious roads that ideas can take over time. Well, these days we have less chance of losing that which has been created. But it's not the same as finding it, accessing it, and knowing how to use it. Access to content is still limited for most people around the world, and that's in spite of the new technologies. Indeed, we are at times creating some very serious digital divides. But this evening, I would like to focus on the way communities, organizations, and firms understand digital opportunities. Bracciolini's story shows that we've been copying, sharing, finding, losing, rediscovering the value of old things in new contexts for a very long time. Indeed, whole industries grew up around doing just that. Publishing, for example, great industry, it's very strong in the UK. It was the original copyright industry. However, the moves from print to digital, whether we're talking about newspapers, magazines, or books, is causing the breakup of the value chains as we knew them. The music industry has, over the last decade alone, seen high street music shops largely replaced by digital music services. These have rich, diverse, and challenging landscapes of production, distribution, and consumption. The very young games industry, too, is a site of extraordinary shifts in concepts of value creation. They, too, are confronting very difficult questions. How can the rights of users be reconciled with the desire to protect investments in content and platforms? So it's very timely that we have CREATE, the new Center for Copyright and New Business Models in the Creative Economy, which, if you look at the website, are addressing creativity, regulation, enterprise, and technology in a holistic way. And these 4 pillars of research areas, when woven together, is what we need to understand better where we're going in the future. We need new concepts, new language, and new theoretical frameworks to help us and guide our travel. It's a very tall order. But I'm going to talk about just one concept, and I won't keep you here too long. It's not an academic lecture. I'm going to talk about the concept of digital affordance. And affordance is a quality of an object or an environment which allows an individual to perform an action. Or another way of looking at the term is that it describes the relationship between an object and a person. Take a chair, for example. It may have been designed to sit on, but additional affordances include using it as a pair of steps, a means of getting to an upper shelf. It might become an independent object of art. Now, the term affordance was first introduced by the psychologist James Gibson in 1977. It remained a technical concept in the study of visual perception and came to rest in a remote corner of cognitive psychology. And as a concept, it could have been forgotten forever. But like Lucretius's poem, it's been resurrected. The digital crowd have picked up on it. And when we think about digital affordance, things get to be really interesting. Digital affordances are about enabling people to do things that creators never dreamt of at a more rapid pace than ever before. Digital affordances enhance our ability to build on the shoulders of others, whoever they are and wherever they might be. We're only just beginning to see the benefits of what can be done when digital affordances enable people to create faster, better, and more useful things, and when they can create in a more friction-free environment. We've already seen some spectacular results coming out of commons-based peer productions. For example, open source software. But this is likely to only be the beginning. Now, if I might step into the world of academic book publishing, which is where I come from, the question of digital affordance might run something like this. What properties do books require in order to maximize their potential in digital form? One answer is that they should be both discoverable and shareable by anyone. And this leads us to a lot of different arguments around all sorts of things, from e-book, public library, lending rights, to access to publicly funded scientific research, and much more. But in the case of academic books, we need to move away from selling high-priced, locked-up single units, one by one, to libraries and wealthy people. Many of us are now working on ways of paying for open access so that the content can be free at the point of use. This doesn't mean abandoning copyright, nor disincentivizing investment. But if we were to begin to think of content as a resource rather than just as a product, available for all to build on in whatever unanticipated way, then we can see the world growing and developing much faster. And we ought to look beyond just commercial ways of generating wealth and foster innovations driven by a sense of public spirit and social entrepreneurship. We are making progress on this as a country. Take, for example, the legal company structure that came into existence in the mid-2000s. The KIC, the Community Interest Company. This is a very good vehicle. It sits between the not-for-profit charities and the for-profit companies and enables commercially viable, sustainable operations to develop. It's a good move. However, more needs to be done to improve institutional frameworks. We need better pathways to finance for not-for-profits who are developing sustainable benefits for the public good through open innovation. Generating wealth through digital is about providing the intellectual space for digital affordances to multiply. It's about supporting innovators and visionaries that can drive this growth wherever they might be, wherever they might come from. And I'd like to now take a moment to remember Aaron Swartz, the brilliant young innovator and visionary that was lost to the world only a few weeks ago. We need to nurture and enable such people because they can lead us to a better future. And as Neelie Kroes, Vice President of the European Commission, wrote about Aaron and his quest for openness, if our laws, frameworks, and practices stand in the way of us getting all those benefits, then maybe they need to be changed. And finally, this brings us back to CREATE's core research themes. Again, creativity, regulation, enterprise, and technology. Taking an integrated and balanced look at what needs to change, and indeed what should stay the same, will help us all come to grips with what digital means. Thank you.
Well, thank you to our speakers. Thank you to Francis. We've heard the concept of digital affordance, an object which may turn into something you had not anticipated, may become one of them. This concludes tonight's proceedings. The work will start tomorrow. Until then, enjoy wherever you will be tonight. Thank you.